Hey, everybody, what's going on? Jeff Rieger, another episode of the Daily Ticket, this one for Wednesday, October 4th. And we kind of got breaking news on the Daily Ticket. This happened just yesterday, okay? So I'm doing the show with Wojo, and somebody, a good buddy of mine, texted. And the text was, holy bleep. So I look at the text, and it's a picture of a tweet. And it's from College Football Report at CFB-REP. They got like 28,000 followers. They're pretty legitimate. And they tweeted out the following last night. Per Bernie Fratto, according to some reports, Urban Meyer. Now, remember, we did a podcast about Urban Meyer being the next coach at Michigan State. I thought it made all the sense in the world. But the tweet said, according to some reports, Urban Meyer will interview for Michigan State's head coaching position. Quote, Michigan State has a lot of donors to back this type of deal up, so we'll see where it goes, unquote. So here at the Daily Ticket, we're good at what we do. So we went out and we got Bernie Fratto because he's a good buddy of mine. He used to work in Detroit. Now he's out in Las Vegas working for Fox Sports Radio. He does shows. He has millions of listeners. And we got Bernie right here. Bernie, how you doing, brother? Good to see you.
Jeff, good to see you, buddy. How is everything out there?
Everything's great. Now, you were in Detroit for a long time. I remember you working at 97.1 before it was the Ticket. You did Lions postgame. You worked in Ann Arbor. Doug Kirsch gave you a job at WTKA. And then one day you up and left for Sin City. And now you got millions of listeners. You're on Fox Sports Radio, and you're killing it, brother.
Well, thank you, Jeff. And I'm proud to stay in touch with you. And you can vouch for the fact that we probably talk on the phone half a dozen times a year. And you will hear the term mole come up in this conversation. And I'm proud to have you as one of my moles. So this is not something that we're just drumming up with whole cloth here.
All right. So let's get into it, because I did a podcast, maybe even last week. And I said, Urban Meyer makes perfect sense for Michigan State. We know what happened with Mel Tucker. Everybody hears Urban Meyer. They say bad optics. No way would Michigan State hire Urban Meyer, who's got so much baggage. People think he's a scumbag. They're not going to hire him after coming from scandal with Mel Tucker. But you, and you've confirmed this with multiple people, you're reporting that Urban Meyer is in East Lansing today to talk to Michigan State about the head coaching job.
My conversation was that he was in East Lansing Tuesday, and I confirmed it with three sources. And just so that we characterize this accurately, no one is predicting he's going to end up with the Michigan State job. No one is predicting he's been offered the job. What I do believe and know is that he has had exploratory conversations with Michigan State. He will have an interview with Michigan State, and he was in East Lansing Tuesday, per my moles, which I trust him implicitly. And just to set this up quickly, I started out in the Michigan market back in 1994 with WTKA, and I was there through the Tom Brady years, so the whole Michigan deal, then graduated over to 97.1. It was WKRK then. My last year was 08, and now I'm in Vegas with Fox Sports National. I share that because I don't know if they use this term anymore, Jeff, but in 29 years, I've built quite a Rolodex. There's a lot of people I can call, and you're one of them. And this started out very innocently as just an innocuous conversation and morphed into the fact that Meyer was there. So could this happen? Look, go back 3 years. What were people saying about Rick Pitino? Rick Pitino's got himself a pretty good gig right now. What were people saying about Bobby Petrino? Bobby Petrino's had 3 gigs since the motor scooter debacle. How about Hugh Freeze? He's not only back as a head coach after the job he did at Liberty, he's back in the freaking SEC at Auburn. So listen, this is a nation of second, third chances. And if you're Michigan State and you've been observing what Deion Sanders is doing at Colorado, don't tell me Urban Meyer couldn't theoretically do the same thing at Michigan State that Deion is doing at Colorado. Instant relevance, instant notoriety, instant national recognition again. He would probably most likely make the competitive. Boosters would be coming back out of the woodwork. And if they won and if they got to the playoffs again, et cetera, or won the darn thing, you'd see their endowment grow. That's how this game works, Jeff. You know it as well as anybody. So the notion that there wouldn't at least be a conversation is naive. This is where Twitter becomes a cesspool. Not only do people misinterpret what you said, but they've got their own 2 cents. They don't put their real name or face on Twitter, but they've got their own sense of morality, right? While they're busy cheating on their own tax and their own wife, pissing on Urban Meyer. Now, I don't care what anybody does. This is not a conversation about moral turpitude. You're a journalist. I'm a journalist. I'm merely reporting what I know from people I trust. Let the story go from there. If he's hired, well, there you have it. If he's not, does it really matter? This is what we're reporting on, what the reality is today. I said the same thing in January of 2022. People can find my tweets. When Jim Harbaugh went to Minnesota, my mole told me there's no way he's getting that job. The Wilf family doesn't like him. They would have had to have been convinced. There's no way they'd make a hire in one day. They would have to go back and hold a caucus. They were going to turn the whole thing into upheaval. They had already talked to Kevin O'Connell from the Rams. My mole turned out to be exactly right. Harbaugh didn't go there. So we just need to see where this plays out. I think, Jeff, it's a shock to the system because, A, Urban Meyer does have some baggage, and they keep showing the video of Urban in the bar in Columbus. 2, you just saw the big Florida expose on Netflix, etc., and
Swamp
people have
Kings.
called there. Yeah, I watched it. Pretty interesting. And then, of course, it's on
They
the
were
heels.
nice to Urban.
Well, yes, there's a lot they left out. Of course, you and I both know that. But the bottom line is, it also comes upon the heels of the Mel Tucker situation, which comes upon the heels of the Larry Nasser situation. I say, you know what? I say, heck, take the hard punch now. Now might be the best time to do it if you're going to do something like this.
Okay, so Bernie, and this is what everybody says. And listen, I know nothing. I don't know Urban Meyer. I think he's a great hire for Michigan State if it were to get that far. But a lot of people would say, Urban Meyer, are you kidding me? You can't go from one scandal to a guy that had 30 arrests at Florida, a guy that stuck up for Zach Smith, a guy that eventually got suspended at Ohio State, a guy that has baggage or mystery disease and illness wherever he's gone. Everybody will say, no, you can't do that with Michigan State. But you think otherwise.
I've been around long enough to know, Jeff, nothing would surprise me. For crying out loud, I was there the night, November 19, 2004, the Malice at the Palace. Nothing will ever surprise me. I'm not predicting this is going to happen. I think if you got a gun to my head, it's 50-50 at best, probably less than 50-50. However, look, I just named 3 other guys that had similar baggage, in some cases, maybe worse. All right. Do you want to produce results? I realize at what cost some people think they're selling their soul. But if you want to produce results, you got to ask yourself a hard question. What if not Urban Meyer, who do you get there to come in and repair this program, which has regressed badly in the last 5-6 years? What do you do? What is your ideology as a university? What are your expectations? What is your legacy? If you could look into a crystal ball and say Michigan State gets to the college championship game 3 years from now, could you then justify Urban Meyer's prior rap sheet, for lack of a better word?
Without a doubt.
There you go. So it becomes feasible. Michael Vick, I was with you back in Detroit when Michael Vick went to jail. I stuck up for him. He paid his dues. He came out. They said he wouldn't play quarterback. They would surround the stadium in Philadelphia and blockade it. No, he came back and played 6 more years and was a Pro Bowler twice. So look, Mike Tyson came out of jail and became champ again. You just don't know. I realize there are always going to be factions of people who want to save us with their moral and intellectual, superiority, but they don't make those decisions. The people at Michigan State will make those decisions. So I think we've just got to let the story play out.
Speaking of the people at Michigan State, in the tweet, the quote is, Michigan State has a lot of donors to back this type of deal up, so we'll see where it goes. From your reporting, from your knowledge, how many people would you say at Michigan State are behind the idea of Urban Meyer? You don't have to give me a full number, but are we talking 25%?
More than you think.
50?
I don't know the number, but more than you think. And I've heard the number that Urban would want is 10 million, which
they could do that.
Well, when I heard that, I called another mole and they go, no, it's doable. It's doable because you look at it as an investment as to what he's going to bring back to the university. Look, for crying out loud, what Dion has done at Colorado. And he's got detractors. So Michigan State, if you're looking at this is a chance to maybe catch lightning in a bottle. If you're going to put a gun to my head and say, would I hire Urban Meyer at Michigan State right now? with everything we know, I'd say yes. That's
And
just
Bertie,
me.
I would too, but then go look at the backstory, right? He's 5-0 against Jim Harbaugh. He's 7-0 against Michigan. He understands what that game means to Ohio State. So you look at that alone, and if I tell Michigan State people, I got a guy that has always beat Michigan, will always continue to beat Michigan. Who the hell cares what he's done? He's going to beat the Wolverines, and that's all Michigan State people want. They want to beat Michigan. Then you add to the fact, and I don't know this for a fact, but he stuck up for Zach Smith at Ohio State. Zach Smith and domestic abuse. Zach Smith is gone. Urban then, of course, was forced to leave as well. I would think, I don't know this for a fact, but I would think he would love and revel in a chance to kick Ryan Day's ass as well. So you add it all together. Not only could you be getting a guy, yes, with baggage, I get it, but he is a good football coach. He's won at every college stop he's been at. But you'd be getting a guy that's had major success against your main rival and could have success against another team that you want to beat so desperately in Ohio State. It makes perfect sense. It really does. And if Urban is in East Lansing, as you're reporting, at least to talk, it would mean that he's got to have some level of interest.
You covered a lot of ground there. Let me unpack that. There's a lot I want to respond to. First of all, as you aptly pointed out, Urban had great success at Bowling Green, Utah, Florida, and Ohio State. That's undeniable. Jacksonville was a debacle. We want to flush that. I think he'd probably like to flush that.
Probably.
Now, one of the things we used to talk about, the years I covered the Lions, we went from Wayne Fonts to Gary Moeller to Marty Morningweg to Steve Mariucci, to Dick Duran, who was an interim, to the lovable Rod Marinelli, okay? And I only covered the Lions in an official capacity for like 10 years. All those coaches. And every time we'd go to hire a new coach, we'd ask ourselves, well, we can bring in this guy, but can you sell the press conference? Can you sell the press conference behind a podium with Urban Meyer? Here's why I say yes. Jeff, who did the Tigers just hire 2 years ago?
Who did they 2 years ago?
A.J. Hinch.
Oh, A.J. Hinch with the cheating
Where
scandal.
did A.J. Hinch come from?
Houston, and he cheated.
What did he
with
have to answer?
He had to do the mea culpa and had to answer every question around. Yes, you're right.
So it's hypocritical to think they couldn't sell this press conference. And I think Urban would be as, what's the word I'm looking for? Would he own up to it as much? No, probably not.
No,
right?
Of course not.
I just got pissed over my own. But I also think he will produce results. And I like AJ Hinch, but I don't think he's really produced results in Detroit. You can't really say that yet.
And I think AJ's had a bad team as well at times. So we'll see what happens next year. But I think you raise a great point. I do. Speaking of, I'll give you a baseball reference, okay? And I actually used this in the last podcast that I did about Urban Meyer. But I remember when Johnny Peralta got busted for steroids. 50 games he was suspended. Detroiters were beside themselves. Get this guy off the team. I want nothing to do with him. He doesn't deserve to wear the old English D. Dave Dombrowski kept him around, moved him from shortstop to outfield when he came back. He hit a big homer in a playoff game against the A's. I've never heard Comerica Park louder. So they hated Johnny Peralta, all of a sudden they love Johnny Peralta. The exact same with Urban Meyer. Will they take a hit publicly? Without a doubt. Will people trash them? For sure. But with that being said, if he starts to win football games, that all goes away and people start to love him. Like, it doesn't matter what people say when the move happens. All that matters is that wins and success follows. And there's no doubt if Urban's the guy, that success would follow. But my question to you, since you're all over this, okay? I don't know if you can answer this question, but as far as candidates go for Michigan State, where does Urban rank, and who else do you think is in that mix?
Well, I think they really like Lance Leipold from Kansas. They like the Kansas State coach. He just begged out. Dan Dickert from Washington State. He's on the list. I was surprised there wasn't more interest in Pat Narduzzi from Pitt. There's been a handful of guys, even including you've seen PJ Fleck's name, but none of this matters. It's like a political poll for presidency. I don't believe in polls. I don't believe in any of it. Okay. I would just say that in some people's minds, Urban Meyer's number one. I don't know if there's a consensus, right? You're not going to make a bigger splash in him. I also want to address the Zach Smith situation. I think there's been a lot reported. There's been a lot not reported. And I think what Urban Meyer did was delegate that to somebody else. As you well know, Urban Meyer once kicked a player off his team at Florida for something relatively minor, and a year later, the kid committed suicide. That really bothered Urban Meyer. And I think he thinks long and hard before taking someone's career away or someone's livelihood away. And I think that deeply affected him. And listen, he's not a perfect person. He didn't take losing well this final year at Florida. I think he started to take sleeping pills and things of that nature. I think some of those health issues were real. And so the bottom line is, I'm not going to defend Urban. I'm not going to make a prediction. I'm really going to report what I know. And what I know is we've got, a situation here that may develop into something. Stranger things have happened. You just never know. Stranger bedfellows. How many times did George Steinbrenner fire Billy Martin and bring him back? Some people want to win. Some people don't care. This is going to be a referendum on Michigan State, frankly. Are you worried about being politically correct? Are you worried about, having this pristine image, which you don't have? Or do you really want to win football games now? And that's because that's where we're at as a society. We've got all these major conference realignments. The TV money's through the roof. There's a shift. There's a cultural shift. There's a seismic shift in amateur athletics, and they're not amateur. Between NIL and the transfer portal, look, I'm not one of those people that's sanctimonious. Why can't it be like the good old days? No, look, things evolve, adapt or die. And I would just say this: we used to fight we used to fight wars, Jeff, in this country with a single shot rifle. Things change, and I am one of those people that likes to go with the flow and look at the pros and the cons, and then we'll judge the results later.
Couple more questions for Bernie Fratto, Fox Sports Radio, reporting that Urban Meyer is in East Lansing on Tuesday. So yesterday, when you see this podcast, talking to Michigan State about their head coaching job, Michigan State's still looking for a president. We don't know what's going to happen with Alan Haller, their AD.
Yep.
Their AD. I don't know why that escaped me. What do you think the biggest barrier would be to hiring Urban Meyer?
I think it could sink under its own weight, whereby multiple factions simply overrule people who would like to make this decision based on what return on investment it would bring to the university. People could succumb to peer pressure, right? There's not a doubt in my mind that Kyle Shanahan was talked off Mac Jones and got Trey Lance, who I knew was going to be a bust. Mac Jones needs to be in the right system. He's actually a serviceable major league quarterback. Trey Lance was a joke. He was talked out of it. Okay. And Chris Sims knows it. A couple people know it. I had a mole tell me the same thing. And a buddy worked for the 49ers. I've told you about him when Harbaugh was there. We thought Harbaugh might go to the Miami Dolphins back in 2014, but Stephen Ross, right? You know the whole story. We've talked about it. I think to answer your question, it could be a majority rule situation where it sinks under its own weight, but it's basically a guess. I don't know if Alan Haller has the autonomy to make that decision. Maybe the boosters come in and say, look, get this guy. We'll come up with the money, just like they did with Mel Tucker, when the rumors to Mel Tucker to Michigan, to LSU, and he just beat Michigan back-to-back. He beat Harbaugh back-to-back, and you walk on water if you beat Harbaugh back-to-back. And by the way, Harbaugh has been great in the Big Ten, but he's 1-6 in bowl games. He's 0-2 in the playoffs, and he's 2-5 against Ohio State. So you can always spin things the way you want to spin them, right? Urban Meyer coming in, this is just good for business. This is good for your business. I agree. And good for my business, but it could sink under its own weight based on a majority rule situation. That's my theory.
So when do you believe they would actually make a hiring? Obviously, after the football season, is this just one interview of many to come? You talked about other candidates that might be up for the job. Like, if they love Urban Meyer and whoever is at East Lansing actually has the power to make this hire, to make it happen, I mean, why wouldn't you just do it?
Well, I think you would. I think it could happen as soon as 7 days or maybe not at all. Before any of this came to light a couple of days ago, I heard from some pretty solid people that Michigan State wants to make this decision within 8 weeks. And they already got out ahead of it. I mean, they had a list of candidates. There's been multiple articles written. They've already started to kind of rank the candidates. And I think Lance Leipold from Kansas was probably their number one target before this whole thing happened. I don't know what triggered this series of events. I don't know if Meyer's people reached out to Michigan State. They reached out to him. That part's unknowable. The timeline's unknowable. Like I said, it's fluid. And what happens now when these things emerge, Jeff, as you will know, you remember the Gary Moeller situation back in 1995. Look, the bottom line is this: it answers some questions and it raises new ones, and it's very fluid. So we just have to watch it, buddy. The one thing I don't want to do is speculate, because there are probably people think I was speculating about Urban Meyer being in Lansing and having exploratory talks. No, I was told by people I trust, and so I don't want to speculate on anything else like timelines or what the deciding factor might be.
He's Bernie Fratto from Fox Sports Radio. Listen to him on Fox Sports Radio. His tweet was picked up, or his reporting was picked up by College Football Reporting on Twitter, and you've been all over it. I mean, listen, I'm not a Michigan State fan by any means, but I know what Urban Meyer going to East Lansing would do to the landscape of the Big Ten. The Big Ten's about to change in massive ways anyway, with all the teams out west coming there anyway. It's going to be a super conference. We know the playoffs going to expand to 12 teams. Urban Meyer would make perfect sense. Urban Meyer would scare the daylights out of Ohio State and Michigan. Urban Meyer, you take a public image hit. Who the hell cares? He's only 59 years old. He's going to go somewhere. I wouldn't be shocked if it was Michigan State. Bernie, awesome stuff, man.
Well, Greg, Jeff, it's great to catch up. Really look forward to seeing you in Vegas in March.
Oh, we'll be out there for the NCAA tournament. Bernie Fratto, listen to him on Fox Sports Radio. Bernie, great stuff. Usually this time on the podcast, the Daily Ticket, we read comments, but we kept Bernie because this was way more interesting than the comments that I get or the questions that I answer. So Bernie, thank you. We'll catch you tomorrow on the Daily Ticket. And you heard it here first on the Daily Ticket. Urban Meyer yesterday was in East Lansing interviewing with Michigan State. Where it goes, nobody knows, but we can tell you that it did happen. Thanks, Bernie.
Keep up the great work, Jeff. Take care, pal.
You too, brother. That's Bernie Fratto. I'm Jeff Rieger. Catch you tomorrow on the Daily Ticket. See ya.